Can you say your name and talk about what you do for work?
Yeah, that works. So I'm Natalie Millar. I'm the CEO at Terminal Gravity Brewing, or TG, as you'll hear me say. And I grew up here in Wallowa County, left for a while, and now I'm back.
What made you want to come back to the community?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was doing the corporate accounting hustle in Seattle for a few years, and then decided to take a little break from that, take a pause from the city grind. And I thought I'd be home for 1 month just helping my dad clean up some of the books here at Terminal Gravity. And minute by minute, it was becoming clear that he was ready to retire and that this is a place I really care about. And it was a pretty cool opportunity for me to get to step up into a big role. When I started, our marketing person at the time and our pub manager and my dad all left for various reasons, nothing against TG or me, but so I suddenly was running the ship alone completely at age 26 and trying to figure out what I was doing. So it was quite overwhelming in that way, but also really exciting because I had so much control and autonomy over what the moves for Terminal Gravity were gonna be and what we needed to do. So I got to hire a lot of managers and people that align with my style and what I'm looking for Terminal Gravity. So that was a great experience. But yeah, I became HR, marketing, management, finance, everything in the course of like a month. So it was pretty crazy for a little while.
What are some of the challenges you faced along the way?
Yeah. The first one was probably imposter syndrome, making sure that, people weren't just assuming, oh, her dad's just giving her this job, where it was like, no, I'm like working really hard at this job and it's lucky that I'm here and I'm lucky that it's here kind of thing. It was a mutually beneficial situation. And then keeping people employed continuously keeps me up at night. In the summertime, we have 65 employees here. 2 of them are sales reps in Portland and some people in the office, some in the brewery, a ton in the pub. And so TG employs a lot of people, which is the thing I love most about it, but also the thing that provides me probably the most stress, is just keeping that going and making it a great place to work. And then the other thing that stressed me out when I first started was our debt levels and kind of getting to see truly a small business and how cash flow is king, and trying to understand how you manage that in a really seasonal business was a big learning lesson and stressor initially for me. It can also be really rewarding. That was my biggest thing. Coming from the corporate style in Seattle and working at a huge firm, I didn't enjoy how small you feel and how I knew once I quit, I was getting replaced pretty much immediately. Like, it wasn't a big deal, which was good in some ways because I didn't need to feel bad. But I was excited to be somewhere where you're valuable and you're cared about and people know what's going on with you. And I wanted that to continue to carry through with me starting here. And I wanted to even improve some of the things we offer to our employees and make it somewhere that's not just a job, but something you enjoy, and not something that's like, if you're not here 40 hours a week, that's it kind of thing. I really have felt empowered to create a workplace that embodies the things I want from work and making sure that that carries through for everybody else as well. So it can be stressful to have people dependent on me, but it also can be really cool because I get to kind of decide, oh, somebody's having a baby, what does our maternity leave look like? What do I think it should look like? I get to figure that out. So it's empowering in that way too. You can kind of say a lot about what you think should be happening in our country or in the workplace, but when you're running a workplace, you get to decide, all right, am I putting my money where my mouth is, or am I kind of going with what has been done for forever? So if that makes sense, it's been fun to get to kind of steer the ship and decide, all right, I want things to go this way. I want this for myself. I want to make sure my employees have it as well.
How did you build confidence in your abilities?
Stepping into a male-dominated industry at age 26 was pretty crazy. I would walk into a room for our distributors in Portland, and I think they'd be expecting a 45-year-old beer-drinking dude with a beard, and it would be me with a coffee. So I think that was something where I had to kind of fake it till I make it, is definitely what occurred. So it was a lot of power stances in the bathroom, pumping myself up and being like, you know everything you're about to talk about, you know what's going on, you care, you're gonna figure it out. And I have, but you definitely struggle still with like, am I doing this the right way? Do I know what I'm doing? And I think the more you're in the business world and the corporate world, you recognize that nobody else really knows what they're doing either. Starting in accounting in Seattle, so I was auditing giant Fortune 500 companies and like interviewing 60-year-old CFOs at age 24 or whatever, and they were afraid of me, which was the craziest experience ever because it was just like, what? That gave me a lot of confidence and helped me recognize that even after doing a job for 40 years, you still kind of are always second guessing maybe what you're doing or what you have going on. So it's confidence inspiring in a way to know we're all kind of just doing it our best and figuring it out as we go. And it's an evolving process and something I'm working on having more and more of at all times. But without it, people aren't gonna buy what you're selling, if that makes sense. So if I tell someone what we're doing, but I'm pretty wishy-washy about it or not certain about what I'm saying, then it's not gonna fly. So I think coming through with confidence, but also coming through with humility is really important. I don't ever want to act like I know more than I do, because that always bites me in the butt if I try to act like I know exactly what I'm talking about when I don't, because later a question will come up where I have to admit that, oh, I actually don't know what I'm talking about. So I think with self-confidence comes the skill of knowing when to say you don't know something. So it's kind of a funny balance of working through insecurities and not being insecure about not knowing everything you're talking about at all times. If that makes sense.
What values are important to you personally?
Yeah, humility is vital in my daily job for sure. I definitely don't do everything right all the time, and I'm never going to, and other people don't as well. So I really try to lead with humility when admitting that I've done something wrong or somebody else has, and I have no interest in finger pointing or blaming or shaming. Instead, I have interest in learning and moving forward. When something maybe doesn't go how we want it to, everyone that works here cares so much that I know they're already beating themselves up enough about something not going well. So humility on all accounts is kind of a vital piece of terminal gravity for me, where as long as you can admit when something went wrong and be willing to understand why it went wrong, we're all good. So I think acting too confident or pompous can really lead to just not really learning or getting better at anything. I think stepping into this male-dominated industry, as I've said, there's a lot of leadership styles within the industry that are pretty harsh or hardcore. I know everything that's going on. I'm into beer, all of that kind of vibe, and that's really not my vibe or my style at all. I really like for people to be happy. I really like for people to get along. I like for people to feel valued. So with that comes that humility piece we're talking about, and a chillness that is kind of vital to what we're doing. And it's the vibe that terminal gravity has. So if I didn't have it, I don't think this would work very well. So I try to always remind people, we're selling beer, we're selling food, we're not saving lives. Like, obviously we want to do that the best we can, and we want everyone that comes here to have an amazing experience. We want everyone that drinks our beer to love it, but we also want our employees to be happy. Like, what's the point of a job if you're miserable? I just have no interest in working in a place where anybody doesn't enjoy their day here. It of course happens, but if the goal is that everybody's enjoying themselves, that plays out a lot better. And then just for my own mental health, like I gotta keep it chill. So if I was getting stressed out, and like, it's been a really interesting lesson in growth for the sake of growth. I've learned a lot about that, especially in the brewing industry. Breweries especially, I think, start and they want to immediately get as big as they can, and they start buying equipment, they start sinking cash into everything and investments, and it just tanks because you don't make enough money. You're paying way more in debt than you are making, and I just see it really backfire, and I see the stress level that it creates like times 1,000. So it's been a really cool, interesting experience to try to really grow organically and question why and when we're growing, and not just doing it for the sake of more money or more exposure, but doing it because it feels right and feels like something that's going to make working here better, and also maybe give more people jobs. Or that's kind of the goal. It's not just for TG to be the biggest thing it could be.
What is the community where you work like?
Yeah, so growing up in Wallowa County, I didn't want to when I was here. Now I'm really grateful that I did. I think going to college, I quickly learned that growing up in a small place like this, you really learn how to speak to adults. And you also take for granted that kind of everybody's looking out for you, even if that's sometimes annoying. It's quite helpful. And I got to, just experience being outside a lot. I also got to experience random people knowing everything about me, so kind of just always being on, whether I knew it or not, kind of putting my best foot forward at all times. And just getting to experience a lot of things. You get to play 3 different sports because it doesn't matter. You get to kind of try a lot of different things. There's also the challenges of maybe different experiences that you don't get to have. So that was something that was harder for me to accept, I think, at times. And moving to a big city, I lived in Seattle for 3 years, and that's what I wanted to do, was just get somewhere bigger and get some exposure. And I did enjoy that time, and I think it's important to experience, but I was really happy I really wasn't planning on coming home. I came home without the intention of staying, but I realized I can afford to live here very happily and comfortably, which is really nice. Everybody is kind, and I also really liked coming home and realizing I was in the city bubble politically as well, which it's good to be around people you disagree with. And I think that's been a good thing for me moving home, is you're not cut off from maybe how other people think and speak, and you can kind of understand why differences occur a little bit better. And you also just get a better look into the issues maybe affecting rural parts of communities rather than just cities. So that was kind of an eye-opening one for me, I think, because I definitely have my own beliefs, but it's good to be able to speak to other people about theirs, and I don't think that happens that much anymore. So that was one big thing about coming home that I appreciated. And also just being involved in the community, you're going to be if you live here, there's no way not to. And the care that happens, and if something bad happens, everybody's immediately there. We had a really cool event here this spring for a woman going through cancer, and she doesn't have insurance. It was just kind of a terrible time for this family that's grown up here. I grew up with them. Her husband's literally here almost every day. So I was like, TG's having a night. So we donated all of our sales. We had a huge auction, and then we had a pie auction, which is my favorite Wallowa County thing. If somebody's gone through something hard, everybody makes a pie, they bring it, and then you auction them off. And it's like the most fun thing ever. You start selling pies for like $800. And then at this one, it was really fun. It rained really hard and nobody cared. There's like 100 people on the lawn drenched as we're like screaming about huckleberry pies and stuff. So it was amazing. And then people kept donating their pie back. So they had paid like $500 for a pie, and then they're like, give it back, So then it was this just like crazy, where we raised like closer to like 8 or 10 grand for this family in a night at Terminal Gravity. So that was pretty amazing, and it's a place where there isn't a ton of, resources, just a flood, but we always find a way to help people, and we care, and you just know you have a community no matter what living here. So I like that about it a lot.
Could you describe your average workday?
I'm often asked what I do in a day at Terminal Gravity, and it is such a hard thing to answer. Anything and everything. Sometimes bills, sometimes payroll, sometimes I'm figuring out what to do with a bunch of kegs that aren't selling. Sometimes I'm running around trying to find beer can lids. Sometimes I'm in Portland selling beer at bars. Sometimes I'm on the phone for 7 hours. Sometimes I'm just walking around the pub having a beer and checking in on people. Sometimes, so it can be it's such a varied experience, but a lot of the time I'm on my computer checking email, which isn't as fun, but coordinating things, planning for future events. I'm doing a lot of the finances, so books and reconciling statements and kind of budgeting and figuring out what it's going to look like for us. Yeah, I mean, a day in the life is a hard one to come by, unfortunately. At some point, I usually at least have a couple ounces of beer here and there, some taste testing. Yeah, just a lot of talking. I would say I have an open door policy, and sometimes I wonder if I need to close my door. But yeah, so a lot of anything and everything. If somebody needs something or if something's gone wrong, I call it CEO the job of what are my 3 problems of the day? And I get to find out throughout the course of a day, every day.
What do you love about your job?
I love working with people at my job. I love being able to empower people and see them succeed, especially when they've come up with an idea or way to solve a problem. I really enjoy seeing that go well. I love the beer we make. I am proud of that for sure. I love the lawn and the experience we give to people that come to Olau County. I love TG's very funky, very interesting history. I think it's really cool, and I think we have a lot of soul. I think a lot of new breweries don't have the soul that we have, and I protect that at all costs. So I love that about working here. Yeah, and I just love, I've literally grown up here at TG, quite literally. So I really love that about it, and I don't think I'll ever work somewhere else where I have that much personal stake in the game, so.
Do you have any advice for students who are trying to find their way?
I think one thing to remember, I think your 20s feel very stressful and very scary, and like every decision you make is for forever or will be what you have to do for 10 or 20 years. And I think remembering that nothing is permanent, everything's malleable, and that nobody has it all figured out, I think is really important and helpful. I think reflect on the lifestyle you want and what you're looking for outside of work when thinking about your career and work. Because I didn't really do that. And I think once I got into the work hustle, I realized that my outside life matters just as much as my work life. And some jobs don't permit the things that you want. So keep that in mind. I think keep in mind that accounting can sound boring, but that it is like the building blocks of any company. Literally, if you know how to look at a financial statement, you can pretty much understand how a business works. And I think that's sometimes underrated, and we get a bad rap. I don't think they always should. And then I think career advice would be explore and be willing to put yourself out there. Like if you're interested in something, go to the company you're interested in, send them an email, see if you could just have a coffee with someone. I did that a few times, and it really helped me to meet people and get advice and get connections. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, especially if there's something you're really passionate or interested in.